All right, now I'm recording. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. So this is how we're gonna do things, right? I'm gonna break it down really, really quick, right? I'm gonna take up 5 minutes, 5 more minutes to talk about fire jump a little bit. Then we're gonna do about 15 minutes going into the mindset, right? What kind of mindset you guys need to be having as far as entering this career, this time in your career, right? We're gonna talk about some tangible next steps and action items. We're gonna do a little bit of hands-on work. And then we're gonna go into a Q&A, right? And I want people to ask as many questions that they can come up with, right? I'll be willing to stay on as long as possible. A lot of people know me from LinkedIn, and they try to ask me questions, but I get busy. But here, when you come to these events, I can stay as long as possible, right? I can make it my goal for that. So that is my promise for the day. Awesome, awesome. Cool. So again, just talking about what FireJump does, right? We helping engineers at early, mid, and senior levels. We help them land their next job, and we teach them complex things in simple ways. We make it engaging, we make it fun, right? That's the main goal that we have. And we have a cohort coming up soon called Your Next SWE Job Cohort, and it's going to be something really, really cool for people who are serious about taking their job hunt, right, in their journey in their career to the next level, right? So we know that people who have worked with us, worked with our team in the past, worked with me, have been able to build financial stability. They've been able to land high-paying jobs. They've been able to overcome rejections, right? Get consistent interviews, overcome unemployment. I've worked with people who've had visa challenges, right? We've been able to help people on F1 visas and those kind of visas figure out the issues of not having a job, building confidence in interviews, right? You got the coding ones, you got the system design ones. We help people with that. And communicating confidently is critical, right? So that's some of the other things that we help with, along with being working with expert engineers, along with working with recruiters in the field, right? So we have a upcoming cohort coming out in January, and we're really excited to announce that. And the value that it's going to bring is going to be super amazing, right? So if you haven't, um, just kind of like looking at the outlook, right, for career earnings for people who are able to build these kind of careers, right? You're able to do well, you're able to earn for yourself, for your family, and really transform your life, right? So I'm excited to be able to empower people in their lives and their journeys to be able to do these kind of things. We just had somebody that I was working with a few months ago land a job, and his total comp was about, 600,000, and he wasn't very far out of graduation. He was actually going to get, they were going to kick him out of the country because his F1 was going to expire, and we were able to help him a lot, right? So I want other people to have this similar kind of success. I'm going to put the link in it, but in a sec, I'll put the link in the chat for you guys to sign up, right? Um, the kind of just talking about it, right? There's a lot of other companies that do this kind of thing. We got Interview Kickstart and Formation Pathrise, right? The value we're offering is going to be immense because um, we really care. We're really passionate. We've been able to look at what other people do, and we know we can make our program better. So yeah, so we're excited for that. And I'm going to drop the link real quick. Um, snap. I'm going to drop the link real quick for you guys who are interested. And please, somebody please tell me if this works. Somebody let me know if this link works. It should work. Yeah, it works. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it
Awesome.
worked for, I just clicked it. It worked for me.
Awesome. So if you guys go, right, so if you're interested in joining this program, right, definitely got to hop on this wait list. This is something that we're doing soon, but space is going to be limited, right? Fill out all your information so we know who you are, and we'll reach out to you. So hope to see some of you guys there. Yeah, awesome. Cool. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Right? AI is here, right? A lot of you guys are here because, well, AI is the new thing, and AI is supposed to be taking over everybody's jobs. AI is the future. AI is everything, right? It's eliminating jobs, it's causing layoffs, it's not helping people. It might be helping the big tech companies, but it's not helping people, right? At least that's what the media is saying. What'd you say? Okay, we have somebody on speaking. I'm gonna have to mute that person real quick. Oh, okay, they muted themselves. Thank you so much. But um essentially we're at a time, right, where there is a big fear about what the future looks like. And if you're a current college student, or if you're somebody who is looking to get into the field, right, it can be scary. It can be crazy with all these articles saying, hey, AI is taking over everybody's jobs. Entry level jobs, they're gone, no bueno, right? Um, and I think the purpose of this is we have to get in the right mindset. We have to get in the right mindset of why this is not something that we're gonna be afraid of. This is something that we're actually gonna accept and we're gonna invite it and we're gonna enjoy it and we're gonna thrive in this kind of market, in this kind of environment, right? For ourselves and for our families and for future generations. So, cool. So AI is here. What we're gonna do, we're going to adapt. We're gonna adapt because that's what we do, right? We're engineers on this call. We're leaders. We're innovators. We are change seekers. So we're going to adapt. We're gonna have a mindset shift, a mindset. Can y'all put that in the chat? Can y'all put the mindset shift in the chat? I need a few hands before I get to the next slide. I need somebody to say mindset shift. Okay, cool. Emmanuel got it. I need a few more people saying mindset shift. If they want to get to the next slide. Okay, cool. All right, I'll take two. I'll take two. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, awesome. Let's talk about the mindset shift, right? So the mindset shift of an engineer right now is the fact that you are not limited to solely having the role of a software engineer, right? The mindset shift is understanding that there is a wide array of opportunity. There's going to be jobs that are on this list here, and there's going to be jobs that have never been created. And there's going to be opportunities that we don't know of, right? That we are going to learn about, and things are going to become available. But one of the main things we have to do is we have to have a mindset shift to say, hey, right, I want to be a software engineer, even if being a software engineer doesn't look in the future as it does today. So how can I leverage the skill sets and the abilities that I have to find something for me, to find something that fits the skill sets and abilities that I have, right? So these are some really cool roles. Some of these roles you probably heard of, right? Like a solutions engineer, a forward deployed engineer. I guess I missed AI engineer. This was AI was supposed to be on this list. Sorry about that. Right? Some people want to go heavier into AI. Some people want to do other things like sales engineer, partner engineer, solutions architect, right? Again, I couldn't fit everything, right? There's a big list, and that list is going to be ever so growing, right? This is a part of our mindset shift, right? So I want to have Jean talk about something real quick before we
Yeah, no,
before
if you go back one slide to those hybrid roles. So this is something that I've been chatting with Ramel about in the past couple of weeks about these what I call like hybrid roles, right? So after I left software engineering at Amazon, joined one of these roles at Meta. So right now I'm a business engineer at Meta. And essentially what that is a mix between software engineering, so you're still writing code, but also client facing work, right? So you're interacting with clients, you're doing a lot of talking. And that client facing work, right? Like your communication skills, building trust with customers, that's something that's very difficult for AI to replace. And it's something I've been observing as I see the number of software engineering jobs shrinking. I'm seeing the number of these kind of hybrid roles explode, right? I'm seeing more and more companies list things like solutions engineer, sales engineer. So this is just something I really want you all to pay attention to. These type of roles and really consider applying for things outside of just pure software engineering. And these roles have interns as well. Like I mentioned, we have a bunch of business engineering interns. So if you're okay talking to people and not just being heads down programming, I recommend you look at some of these roles. They're going to become more and more important as time goes on. I believe this is the future of software engineering, right? I don't think these kind of roles are going to be going away because the value of these roles is not just programming, is your communication ability. And then you can just leverage AI to deliver code to customers. So happy to talk more in depth about that in the Q&A at the end. Don't want to bottle up too much time here, but just want to call out, take a screenshot, take a picture on your phone, and search for these on LinkedIn in your job search as you go.
Nice. Thank you. And another thing we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to plug here just to keep in mind is this is a course that's being put together for prioritizing your studying, right? And whether you use this resource or any other resource, right? The issue that trying to solve here, right, is when you're thinking about studying, there's a few things you need to prioritize in your study, right? I'll talk about this, data structures and algorithms, and then I'll talk about system design real quick. So for data structures and algorithms, right? It's like I said, whether you get from this website or another website, it's good to have an order in which you're studying topics, right? I highly recommend you don't just do scattershot like, oh, BFS here, backtracking here. Highly recommend you go in order, right? In a particular order, do be good with this, then be good with this, then be good with this. And another something that I see a lot of students and early career professionals struggle with is how do you know you've done enough questions for a particular topic, right? Each topic has a little variance, right? Every DFS question isn't exactly the same. So that's something else this tries to give you is, hey, these are like the specific amount of questions you need to do for backtracking, let's say, and then you can be comfortable that you've covered all the flavors or nuances of that particular topic, right? For system design, something I see a lot of students struggle with is that you kind of just don't know what you don't know, right? This is something more and more companies are starting to do is put on new grads, even interns, is system design interviews, whether that's object-oriented programming or questions about databases and stuff. And a lot of students are just not super familiar with those topics like caching and such like that, or how to deal with location-based systems. So this tries to cover that as well. Just tries to be a centralized resource for that. So if you want to check it out, feel free, or we can talk about it more in the Q&A. Once again, I don't want to take too much time, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to chat about those two things today. Back to
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. And then I put the link in the chat for people, right, who want to learn more about it. We'll send the email out and we'll have more information about that coming out in the email. Awesome. So let's get back to it, right? So I want to talk about a few people here, a few special people who I think are like role models for students, for people who are trying to look for jobs right now, right? We have this guy here. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know his name, right? Somebody scan that QR code and tell me his name because I didn't do it, right? But I know that this guy went viral for being on Wall Street because he wasn't able to get a job. And he was going along the lines of, he was going with the traditional methods of applying on LinkedIn and emailing and doing that kind of stuff. And then he decided to go outside, to go on Wall Street and hold a sign until somebody hired him, right? So, yeah, I think this is like something incredible. Um, this is something incredible, right? Will the student get an interview? Is somebody going to take the time to give him a 30-minute to an hour interview? That's a good question. That's a good question. We'll talk more about it, right? Let's talk about somebody else. There was a student at Georgia Tech. I went to Georgia Tech myself, so yeah, I went to Georgia Tech myself, and there was a student, a first year, who made this cool platform or this cool software that essentially allowed basketball games to be refereed using a camera, right? He did this as a freshman. Um, yeah. Is this guy gonna get an interview? Is somebody gonna take the time to interview this kid or a student? I don't know. Probably. Probably, right? We'll talk about it at the end, right? And there was another guy who went viral for he lived across the street from a building, right? A big, large technology company, a financial technology company. and he started sending messages using sticky notes on his windows to the other school, asking the company to hire him. And one day he got a note back, and the note said, "What is your email?" They literally put a sticky note up saying, "What is your email?" And he gave the email to that school, to the person, right? Put his email up in sticky notes, replied, got an interview, and got a job, right? That's not a textbook way of getting a job. And the point of that, right? The point of all of these people, what they had in common, they will get a job, an interview, right? These people will get an interview, and I'm sure that eventually they will land a job. But the point is that they're willing to go out of the box, right? They're willing to create opportunities for themselves. They're willing to do something that's untraditional, right? That's not gonna just be applying online all day, right? And all of these people had a certain drive and motivation to win and to be successful, right? I would say that they were desperate to win, right? Not depressed. Desperate and depressed, I think those are two different things, right? But they were desperate to win, and they knew their mindset was like, hey, if I do this, I will win eventually, right? They're willing to be patient with this, right? So this is something big because this talk today is not going to be about like applying for tons of jobs online, right? That's what everybody's doing. We have to stand outside of the pack if we're going to be successful. We're going to have to do things that are untraditional. All right, cool. So let's go back to the just whole idea of entry level, right? I think some of us, right, when we go back to this AI thing, we think that, man, nobody likes entry level people. No one likes us. Like we're like AI can just replace us, like we're basic and we can't do anything, right? I think that's a false statement. I think everybody loves, right, people who are hardworking, people who are motivated, who are enthusiastic, right? They're willing to go above and beyond. They're more affordable, they're coachable. People love early career people. They love them. They love these early career people, right? People who have energy, who are excited to go to work every day, who are excited to learn, who have only nothing but potential and they have fresh knowledge and ideas, right? People love those people. Everybody does. So why are we saying that entry level people are going to be out of luck, and these entry level people are going to be the ones that kind of get screwed in the current climate, right? I think the idea is for entry level people, we have to make sure we have the right traits, right? Entry level people you have to be um, this lovable person who is going to add value and do everything you can. And yeah, right, the reason that companies don't want entry level people, right? There's things that they don't like about entry level people. It's the fact that they have to train people who are entry level, right? Entry level people sometimes we they make mistakes, right? Those are normal things. Anybody can make a mistake, right? A long time to be trained to add value to a company. Okay, that's fair. But I promise there's ways that you can mitigate that, right? There's ways you can lessen the risk for a company, um, and you can do that, right? So are companies hiring entry level talent, right? Do you need to be an AI expert? Do you need to have tons and tons of years of experience, right? No. The answer to all of these is you don't need to you don't need to be an expert, right? You don't need to know a whole bunch about AI. You don't need to have a whole bunch of years of experience to know about companies. And the reason is because companies hire either when they want to tackle bigger jobs, right? When they have more funding available, they have more resources available, when they want to backfill, and there's a number, right? That list goes on. Um, but the main idea is as somebody who's an early career entry level, right? You can minimize that risk and you can become a value add, right? If you're one of the people that I showed you in the beginning of the slides, right? You can be somebody who can add value and any company would love to hire you and work with you, right? So that is what you want. So let's talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So it looks like people who are really think outside the box, people who take initiative. And taking initiative just means getting stuff done. It really has nothing to do with software engineering or a computer science degree, right? I don't have a computer science degree. Um, and we'll see if I get one, right? But along the way, I've been able to work, I've been able to mentor people, I've been able to teach people. And I've been able to be successful in my career, right? People who are eager to learn and grow. That's super important, right? Being eager, being ready to learn and grow, and understanding the value that you bring. This is super important. Um, Along with being deeply motivated. Just a quick story. We had this intern at Amazon, just super passionate, super motivated individual, went above and beyond during a short, about 8 to 10 week period, and built something. And what he built was able to go live into production in a really short period of time. And he was polite. He showed up first one to come, right? Always left really early, was kind, was polite to everybody, just super focused and humble, right? He was the best person on the team, not by skill set, but in the best person on the team to work with because of the personality, because of his energy, right? And we wanted to get that guy hired quick, right? So that's who you want to be. Okay, cool. So let's also talk about the fact that everybody has a unique path. So the thing that with those three guys that I showed in the beginning, they didn't do the same thing, right? It wasn't like, hey, I see somebody standing on Wall Street with a sign, now I'm gonna do that, right? No, everybody had a unique way to become a ideal candidate, right? And I think the beginning of that is to build some motivation, right? What motivates you? What moves you? The guy standing on Wall Street, he's probably a good communicator, right? He's probably somebody who can hold a conversation if he's looking for a job on Wall Street. The student who's making AI algorithms, right? He probably just loves building software, right? He's doing something that he would just do no matter what. We got to find that motivation, and then find a sweet spot with that motivation, right? So sweet spot, what I like to call is like that mixture of like knowing what you're good at, learning what you're good at, learning what you enjoy to do, right? And finding something that will pay some bills, right? Bills have to get paid. Bills have to get paid. Um, that is kind of what the sweet spot is about, right? And I think this is really important because in today's day and age, right, you're going against a lot of people. So you don't want to have competition, right? You want to be in a place where you really want to be, right? You want to be doing something that you really want to be doing because you enjoy it, because you're good at it, and because you can do well, right? You can make good living doing it. Right. So cool. So how do you know what you're good at? Right. You got to talk to people. You can like dig within, take some time, reflect. You can ask friends, you can ask family. You can think about any project, anything you've done in the past, right? What role did you take when you did a group project? Who were you in that group? Were you somebody who built something? Were you somebody who led? Did you help out? What did you enjoy doing in that project? Right. And then maybe think about like what did you want to do? Maybe you didn't have a good experience, but there was something that you saw and you're like, yeah, I actually wanted to do that. Right? So that's kind of how you think about what you're good at. You think about what you enjoy, right? Literally Ray Dalio, he had a big podcast interview last few weeks ago, and best quote ever, right? Work and passion should be the same thing. And money, you should think about money a little bit, but work and passion is the core part right there, right? And I think that's what gets people ahead, and that's what gets people to become outstanding from by the standards that we use today in society, right? So that means you might have to try new things, you might have to reflect on what you like, reflect on what you don't like, and those are the kind of things. Do we have anybody have any questions? Was there any comments in the chat so far? Yeah, somebody said there's a big difference between want to win and need to win. Awesome. Hey, if you guys have comments, thoughts in the chat, put them here, right? Cool. Another thing is really knowing the value you bring, right? Sometimes it is hard for us to stand out because we don't know what we have, or we just don't see the value in ourselves, right? This is something that I know, again, that's that mindset shift, right? Everybody has value. Everybody's value is unique. Um, that doesn't mean that you can't build more experiences, and it doesn't mean that you don't need more things that are going to make you better. It just means that your experience is going to make you great already, right? Everybody's experience is unique. Um, and everybody's still in progress, right? So even the guy who you think is like, oh, this person is great, that person is in progress. We're all in progress, right? So think about that value that you bring to a company, experiences, abilities, and think about the skills. Think about the skills and the knowledge you provide. That's usually where our mind goes because we usually think about like not what we can do, but what we can't do. Um, and it's not a bad thing to think about what you can't do, right? Because we're going to talk about that, right? So once you kind of have an idea, once you have some motivation and you kind of know what you want to do, and we already said there's a lot of different ways you can go in. There's a lot of different directions. It's time to take a dive into building that deeper understanding, right? Building a deeper understanding of whatever route that you think is going to work for you based on your unique background and your experiences and what you like, right? And it may be a certain type of software engineering, right? Some people hate front end development. If you hate programming and JavaScript, that's probably not for you, right? You're probably not going to put time in to become great at it. You're probably not going to, and again, it goes on with AI, right? There's certain parts of AI you don't like, it probably doesn't make sense for you to like get that master's or the PhD in AI, right? Because you don't like it, and you might never like it, right? So deeper understanding is really just about being more knowledgeable in your field. It's about working on projects, more initiatives, finding opportunities to build a skill set on a deeper level, and just taking more opportunities to become better, to gain a deeper understanding. We have a few different ways, right? There's capstone for people in school, personal projects, group projects. You can get an internship. You can work at a startup. You can do research. Um, there's organizations like CodePath. Myself and Ja, we've worked with CodePath, right? They have industry people teaching really great skills. You can study by yourself if you want. That's up to you. And consulting with friends and family. I think that's a really great way for people to build a deeper understanding, right? If you have a friend or family member who has a problem, right, you can figure out, hey, how can I help them solve this problem using some of the skills that I have, right? Using what I've learned in my career. How can I learn more about what I want to do to try to solve something, right? These are some really good ways to go build a deeper understanding. And then along the lines of, um, we have these technical interviews, right? Technical interviews are a way for companies to assess, like, do you really have that deeper understanding, right? This is something that is really important. If you go through that journey and you realize, hey, I do really want to be a super technical software engineer. I want to work at the big FANG company, right? Because that fits my image of success and it's going to give me joy and all of that. Cool. Got to be good at technical interviews, right? All the assessments and online assessments. Um, got to be good at that, right? We got some resources here. We talked about priority queue. I'm sure many of you have already used Neat Code already, so definitely check that out. Um, Kind of want to kick us into some more tangible action items, right? So we talked about mindset. Let's talk about some real life steps, real life scenarios that are going to get us better, that are going to give us to that point where we want to be in our careers, right? So cool. So we got to be specific. So we went through this mindset shift. We have an idea of what we want to do. Got to be specific, right? We got to be what they want. They is the companies, right? We got to be what the companies want. We got to be where they are, right? Distance wise, we need to be in near. We need to be near where these companies are, or where these companies have these opportunities. We need to communicate. We need to have some good strategies, and we need to be organized. Cool. That's not too bad, right? That's not too bad. Okay, cool. So let's be specific. What do I mean by that? By being specific, I mean we got to learn um, the different types of roles that are available, the different things we can do, um, and learn about different companies that do it. And the reason we have to learn about is every company is different, right? We just talked about a forward deployed engineer. A forward deployed engineer at a startup might be different than a software engineer at Amazon or a forward deployed engineer at Amazon or another company, right? So we got to learn about all these different types of roles and how it's different at different kinds of companies. We have to see if it's something that's interesting to us, right? And then we need to limit our options down, right? I promise I've talked to so many students and they're like, I'm like, what do you want to do? And they're like, hey, I just want a job. And I think, just wanting a job is there's a lot of jobs out there, right? It's hard to find something that is gonna be motivating and, you're gonna have a lot of joy and passion going through this journey if you're just trying to get a job, right? Because you got to stand out. So I tell people limit their options, right? 2 to 3 options max in this time period. In this time, that doesn't mean it can't change down the line. In this time period, let's just have a few options, right? Know kind of what we want to do and be specific on that path. So if you want to be a software engineer, don't just say general software engineer. No, like, hey, I want to be a software engineer. I want to work on back-end distributed systems. Or I want to be a software engineer and I want to, work on a lot of the new AI kind of stuff, right? So I want to do like I want to work with the LLMs and I want to implement RAG and I want to work with these AI agents. I don't want to build it from scratch, but I just want to work with it, right? Good. Let's be specific. Let's be specific. And then the reason we need to be specific is so we know, how are we going to be qualified for the role? How are we going to we know how to prepare, right? We know what gaps we have or what we need to learn if we don't have those skill sets already, if we're specific. Cool. So be the ideal candidate. So I kind of talked about this already, right? You can be an ideal candidate by getting experience. I know some of you guys in this call, maybe you don't have experience. I consider experience a broad range of things. Projects and classwork is experience to some extent, right? And I'm sure your school has some advanced classes. CodePath has advanced courses, right? There's things you can do. You can volunteer. There's things you can do to get that experience. Um, right? Building the skills that are gonna make you top in your field, right? Building is something that is constant. Sorry, building skills is something that is constant, right? This is not something you stop. My boss, he used to tell me, hey, study 3 hours every day. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, all right, I can study 3 hours, like, but like for how long? And he's like, hey, like there's no time period. Like you just keep going. You just keep going, right? So if you're going with the mindset of, hey, you want to be great, and you're like, I want to just keep going and keep learning and go deeper and deeper, pick something you're gonna like. Um, Another thing is, right, being an ideal candidate is about being eager to solve a company's problem, right? I think the videos that I showed you, people who are able to go above and beyond, they reek this scent of like, I'm gonna work super hard, right? I have drive, I have motivation to do whatever it takes, right? That's super important, right? Also, understanding the day to day, right? Somebody who has no clue about what a job entails is not going to be an ideal candidate, right? So you know that day to day, you can put yourself in a position, you can learn what it means to do good at that, right? So getting strong at technical interviews, what does that look like? It looks like mock interviews, looks like data structures and algorithms, studying, right? Putting a few months in if you have to learn how to problem solve better and think like a software engineer. I know it's not easy. It's something we're going to be working on in our program. Um, and then behavior interviews. Wanted to have Jean talk a little bit about behavior interviews and give us a little bit of his advice on that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think I forgot to remove a comment there at the end. But yeah, so just want to say two things, right? One, Ramel's already talked about there's lots of different organizations for undergrad students, right? Let's say two of them there is already talked about. But something I've noticed that a lot of students aren't realizing is that ChatGPT has a voice mode, right? So if you give a system prompt to ChatGPT, giving it context about the company you're applying to, right? It'll be able to search up all this company's values and the type of behavioral question they usually ask. And then you can just do a mock behavioral interview with ChatGPT, right? So you don't have to bug your friend for that. You don't have to talk in front of the mirror kind of thing anymore. You can literally just talk to ChatGPT. It'll give you feedback in real time. So just like a little AI hack that I recommend you check out. That's awesome. Quick note.
Awesome. Awesome. And then just in general, right? Um, we can use other tools, right?
Oh yeah. One other thing I wanted to say here is this is pretty rare, but I've seen a couple students I work with get caught with this. So I just want to throw this out there just in case you all aren't aware. Some companies, particularly startups, are instead of doing data structure and algorithms, they're actually asking students to try to build projects in real time in the interview. So literally in the interview, they're like, hey, yeah, just open up Cursor, use GitHub Copilot or wherever you want, and just use AI to help you program something, right? So just don't want you to get caught by that. All you need to do is just, hey, make sure your recruiter tells you what's going to happen in the interview, right? I'm just shocked sometimes recruiters are like, yeah, your interview is next week, and then no info about the interview. Make them do their job, press them to make sure you don't get caught by this. Other times they may not make you use a tool, but they may ask you about, like, hey, have you been keeping up to date with AI? And it's going to be a really big flag if you say no. Just there's a couple of buzzwords I threw down here: LLMs, right? Vector DBs, MCP. Just try to be aware of the kind of things happening in the industry, some new tools that are coming out, and just have a sentence or two to say about some of these buzzwords that can be uh that can be a big red flag if you have like just can't give any sort of indication of what an LLM is, for example, right? Or what Anthropic or Claude is, right? So just try to keep your ear to the ground, so to speak, in the industry. Don't need to spend 30 minutes or an hour every day, but maybe just do a quick Google search, read an article once a day, once every other day.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Cool, right? So behavior interviews, right? That's really important. Like John was saying, right? You can study with ChatGPT or another tool, right? You can work with people. And I think understanding engineering trade-offs is so critical, right? This is the ability to, when you're communicating, talking about why you made one decision instead of another decision. And I think that is a huge, very important thing for engineers in interviews. Why did you make that decision? Why, what was the engineering decision right there, right? Why was this decision better than another decision? Um, Understanding software engineering concepts is important. Um, and asking questions to show that interest, right? So those are all really important things. Okay, cool. The next thing is we want to be near people who can give an opportunity, right? Who can give us some type of an opportunity or give us something. Um, the hardest part about getting interviews, hardest part about interviews, sorry, for most people is getting the interview in the first place, right? I promise if you had an interview every day and you could just repeat this cycle at a new company every day, day after day after day, you would get incredible at interviews, right? Because you know another one is coming, right? And eventually you would land that job. So getting the interview is generally a challenge, and it's helpful to figure out who you need to know and who you need to connect with to get that. And a great place to start, most people don't know, is your personal network, right? Your friends or your family, all right, or your friends of friends, right? This is the best way to network and connect with people who actually know you personally, right? And then there's other ways, right? Joining organizations. Organizations are awesome. Organizations are one of the best things you can do because it's a group of people, right, who are already like-minded, um, and they already have connections with industry. So you got the alumni associations for my college current students and graduates. We have just national organizations, professional organizations, right? Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, right? The National Society of Black Engineers or NSBE, right? ACM, I think I forget what ACM stands for, but Advancement of Computing or something like that, right? Again, I don't know. We have different organizations for people of color and for women, right? Code 2040, Girls Who Code, SWE, right? Society of Women Engineers. It goes on and on and on. And most of these companies have exclusive access most of these organizations have exclusive access to companies, right? So this is like a direct path to like company if you join one of these clubs, right? They have established relationships. Going to the right events, that's really important, right? This is all of these things, by the way, are way better than applying online, like insanely better, right? Um, Going to company recruiting events, right? Companies come on campus all the time. You got to be there, right? If you're a student, go, right? Find out when the events are, right? Join those clubs that are inviting people out, right? Conferences, right? There's so many national conferences where people are getting jobs. The Tapia Conference, Grace Hopper, right? AWS reInvent, so many conferences. Some of these conferences have scholarships for students. Obviously, career fairs are big. You don't have to go to only your college's career fair. You can go to any school career fair. Um, yeah, and then again, right, different organizations, kind of like the ones I mentioned before, that partner with these companies are gonna be great for you guys, right? And when you go, just be prepared, do a little bit of research, be ready when you go, right? So the other part is having an online presence, right? Most of you guys found this event on LinkedIn at one point or another, right? So LinkedIn is the best place for you to share your experiences. um, you have to make sure you're adding everything. Use it as a portfolio, right? Add all your relevant experience, add everything, right? Use as many keywords as you can. Use the key critical keywords and take advantage of that LinkedIn algorithm because that LinkedIn algorithm is incredible. It's one of my favorite platforms. Everybody talks about TikTok, but the LinkedIn algorithm is something that is more life-changing in my opinion, right? And then you can use other platforms as well, like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Monster, right? Get your resume on that platform. These recruiters reach out to me on all of these platforms, including Monster, Indeed, and all of that stuff. Cool. All right, so communicating it clearly, we're getting close to an end, getting close to a close. Um, but we want to communicate it clearly. Yeah, the recording will be available. Minda had a question. It will be available later. Uh, So, all right, so we want to make sure we're communicating our value clearly, right? We go through this whole process. Now we want to know, like, hey, when are we going to actually speak with a company? All right, so usually there's about four different ways we speak with a company at events, in informal meetings or coffee chats, when we actually apply with the resume and interviews, right? So, got to make sure we're communicating our value clearly and we know the value that we add, right? So, recruiters, right? We know they look at resumes for about a few seconds. So we got to have the right numbers, the right metrics. We got to show the right impact, right? This is like a header that I tell people to use at on their resumes, right? I tell people your objective statement should be to the point to where a recruiter can look at it and say, bet you're qualified just by these three top bullets. You don't even have to look at the rest of the resume. And this helps me because it tells me, hey, here's my selling points, right? What are my selling points? This was actually a resume I had that I was able to years ago. I had this resume and it got me a really good mid-level job as with only like a few years of experience, right? Um, cool. So performing well in interviews, this is something important, right? A lot of this comes from being confident and showing extreme interest and being able to deep dive. Cool. While we're on this topic, right? I wanted to share this worksheet with everybody, right? And this is something that's really important. And I want you guys to actually work on this while I'm talking, right? Because this is when I'm working with people and I'm helping people get jobs, we have to go through the process of reflection, right? So while I'm talking, I want you guys to download a copy of this and start thinking about and I'm going to ask people to share actually, right? But I want you guys to start thinking about some type of experience or project that you've had, right? It doesn't have to be something like inside of the box, like an internship or anything like this. It could be anything. It could be any unique experience that you felt like was a key accomplishment in your career, right? And I want you to write it down, and I want you to think, if you can, think about any metric that you have regarding that. Think about any metric that you have, and then take another moment and think about any actions that you took, right? So we're gonna I want people to start doing this now, and at the end we'll kind of have some people share, right? As I kind of get through the last bit of it. Anybody have any questions about that? Awesome. Thank y'all. Okay. So we have a few other things, right? Tracking your progress, your process, right? People, we need to track our process while we're going through this, and setting up time, right? We have to be organized, right? So we have to do that. It's really great to have a study plan if you're doing interview prep, right? Knowing what you're going to study and knowing how you're breaking your time down. This stuff is really, really good. I recommend people do this. Um, right? Have some type of tracker. And also keep track of the people you meet, the people you run into, right? People are super powerful and they're gonna help your journey the most. So you gotta follow up, right? You gotta keep track of the people, not just jobs you're applying to. I think the people are probably more important. Okay, we're almost at the end. Almost at the end. Um, Talking about using the right strategies. This is the final point. Um, these are the two strategies that I like to tell people, right? It's simple. Go for low-hanging fruit and know that one opportunity is going to lead to another opportunity that's even bigger, right? That's just how things work. It just always works, right? I can't explain how. It just works, right? You got to trust. If you guys I believe in God, I believe in the Lord, right? So there's certain things that I trust, and these strategies, I trust these strategies, okay? Right. So that low-hanging fruit is strategy number one, and it's really about the best opportunity that you have a best shot at, right? It's about taking the opportunity that you know, like I can get that opportunity, right? Maybe you have a connection to somebody who can help you get this job or whatever, right? Or maybe you know that, there's a professor that is connected to somebody else, or you used to be a part of an organization and they need somebody, right? Sometimes we have to go for those opportunities initially that are gonna be we know we can get. And then after we get that, it allows us to be a little bit more at peace, a little bit more at calm, and then we can start reaching for the everything else that we want, right? So people who want to go to Google and Facebook and Meta and Amazon, whatever, I always tell them like, hey, start at a company, like not work physically, but get a job, get an offer at a company that has a much easier process first. And then after you have a job and it's secured, now interview at the big guys because you're going to be less stressed if you don't get the job, right? You're going to be walking with confidence. You're going to be, moving incredibly well because hey, this is a shot, but it's not my only shot, right? I could always come back. I come back in 6 months. I can come back in whatever. So that's really important. The other part is again, one opportunity leads to another opportunity. And I like to go through this slide because it just shows us there's a process in getting these big jobs and these big internships usually. Some people are blessed, some people get to skip steps, others can't, right? Some people want to go from doing some basic programming classes to internship and they've never worked on like any project courses or any small project or been to any big project, right? They have no clue, right? So I think understanding that there is a step sequence, there's a process that's going to truly help you is really, really important, right? And sometimes we got to we got to work with family, right? We might have to consult for a family member, for a relative. They may pay you, they may not, right? But if it's something that you enjoy, I promise you it's gonna be an opportunity. You're gonna put that on your resume. It doesn't matter if they pay you or not, right? The first internship that I had, I had to give it to myself, right? Some of you guys, the first job you have, you may have to give yourself, your first job. And entrepreneurship is a career path, especially in this day and age, right? Don't let anybody say, hey, entrepreneurship is not a career path. That is a career path. That might be a better career path that may lead to even more success over time. Cool. So we went through it. Right? Your journey, everybody's journey is going to be unique, but it's about first tapping into the right mindset, right? Learning about the abilities that you have, the things that you like, finding that sweet spot, growing in your knowledge, right? Of whatever that sweet spot is that you have, understanding your value, communicating that value, and then you start taking these steps, right? You start making things move in a small way. Cool. So what time are we at? What's the clock at? I wanna open it up now for Q&A, and I also want to open it up for people to share more specifically about other things that they're people who wanted to kind of go over some of the things that they've accomplished, right? Their personal accomplishments. Um, yeah. Yeah, guys, drop your LinkedIn. I hope this was super helpful for everybody here on this call. Um, but yeah, feel free to unmute, feel free to put your camera on and let me hear some questions, and also let me hear some accomplishments that people have had and how people are able to just think about how they can communicate about themselves, their experiences better. Awesome. Someone asked the question. Oh, thank you so much. Yep. Thank you, Amal. Thank you so much. Okay. Uh, Prat- Pratishka, Pratiksha, sorry. Pratiksha had a question, right? How do we balance the question of how do we use AI because it can backfire? I think for a question like that of how do you use AI, I would kind of like work backwards and I would think about like what is this interviewer trying to assess? Right? If somebody's asking me how do I use AI, in my opinion, the question is really asking, it's not really how do I use AI exactly. It's more about like drive how do you drive efficiency with your own self-productivity? Right? That's kind of what I think about. And that's what that question is about. It's about how do you save yourself time by doing things? Not about how do you use AI on your exam or anything like that, right? Or whatever you whatever people are using or your homework, right? Whatever people are using AI for. Um, but I would keep it focused on something that you are able to accomplish because you're using AI, right? And the reason that shows initiative because it means that you're leveraging this tool to get something done, and you can do the same thing at their organization. And I think that's what that question is about. Okay, let's see if we have more questions. Will the slideshow be available? Yep, I can upload all of this, give this to you guys. If again, if this information is relevant and helpful to people, right? I'm gonna need you guys to I think we put a chat up top at the beginning. So you would need to, oh, let's see if I can find it again. Let's see if we can find it again. I'm looking for it. All right, we're gonna find it, guys. We're gonna find it. But it's essentially just collecting everybody's contact information. Boom, boom. Awesome. Uh, I'll be here hanging out. If anybody wants to again like unmute, have any more specific questions. One of the questions, so somebody asked me this the other day, and I'll go over a question that I've gotten and I get. I had a question from someone who was an alumni, computer science major, and they've been out of the workforce for years, not doing anything computer science related. And they wanted to know, like, how do I get back? How do I get back in the industry? Right? They graduated, they didn't have a job for maybe 3 or 4 years, and they want to get back into the field. And my big call out to them was the fact that when you leave the industry, sorry, when you leave college, especially for a certain amount of years, the bar increases, but your skills may not, right? So what that mean, what essentially what I told him is he has to focus on upping his skill set. And if his skills are already there, then I think he should work on interview preparation, right? But for him, it could make sense to, join a program like the one we have to improve his abilities, his skill sets. It could make sense to maybe go back and do a boot camp or do something that's going to actually give him some more modern relevant skills or self-study or something like that. But he needs to go back and do that kind of thing and look at different organizations that exist where he can do it, right? And I think a lot of people are going back to school to get a master's, and I think that's really good, but knowing what you want to do with it is more important. Somebody said, "What is the best source to outreach to in a company you want to work for?" The best source to outreach to a company you want to work for is to know people who work at that company, right? Because at the end of the day, um, outreach to a company, right? Let's say you're like, hey, I want to outreach to Google. Well, what does that mean, right? Do you want a job at Google? If you want a job at Google, you should probably start meeting people who work at Google, right? You should know when is the next hiring event at Google, right? Is Google going to be on my campus soon? Is Google going to be on another school's campus anytime soon? Is Google having any open free events that I can go to or sponsoring any events? Are they going to be at any career fairs? How do I meet people that work here? How do I start talking to them and learn about their day to day and getting in touch with them? Right? So I think one of the best sources is through people, through network. Maybe you know somebody. Maybe you have a friend that works at Google or a friend of a friend, right? Maybe they can introduce you to a recruiter. I promise you, anything is going to be beating applying, right? The normal applying process, that's only going to do so much for you. That's my best advice for you, Mohammed. If that doesn't answer your question, or if you have another question, let me know. Okay, we have another question by Sharika. And again, feel free to unmute, right? You don't have to type it in. So Sharika asked, for someone who's been searching for full-time roles for a while, what are some practical ways to stand out in the market or at interviews? So I need a little bit of context, if you don't mind me asking. When you say searching for a while, what is a while? Like is a while like years, like the student that was, 5 years? Or is there more to that? Is it like is when you say wow, do you mean like a month out of college or a month? What do you consider a while? Almost a year. Okay. Well, that's not that long, right? And the way the market is now, that's not that long. I think practical ways to stand out. It has to be unique to you, right? I think you need to maybe think a little bit and kind of reflect on what I was saying, right? Reflect on, do you want to, are you sure you want to go back into software engineering? I'm assuming you were in it before, but do you want to come back specifically as, this type of software engineer? Is there a specific area you can niche down into and target even better and become like more of an expert in that? Um, and are there ways that you can be introduced to more people, right? Can you uh, join some local organizations and meet more people? right? Can you update your LinkedIn to kind of like become like an expert in if you're interested in low level, right? Low level engineering. Can you become like an expert in low level engineering and maybe start sharing resources? Um, or maybe start teaching some people, right? Again, there's a lot of things that you can do um, to stand out in the market right now. But the first thing is like figure out what you really want to do. Um, think about something that you're willing to commit yourself to that's extra. Applying, by the way, I don't think it's anything, if you've been applying for jobs for like 6 months to a year, I promise you, if you stopped applying for like a little while, right, to go focus on doing something that is actually going to add value to you or to other people, I promise you, you will not go wrong with that. Because life is not about just applying to jobs, right? Life is about doing something and feeling motivated, and making an impact, right? Feeling good about yourself, feeling good about the day, not just applying to jobs. So that is uh my advice, right? Is to go do something practical. Maybe you got to go, maybe it's time to go consult with for friends or family, um, on something that you're interested in, right? For some engineers, right? Maybe you had that idea, you had some startup idea or something, and you want to go build it because you have the time. Well, use this, take the time, go work on something that, is useful. Yeah. Hope that was helpful. Somebody said, Pratish got another question. What is the best time to cold email or message on LinkedIn? And she said that they do not apply. They do not reply. Well, I think that's the issue with LinkedIn, right? I think LinkedIn is great, but I think on LinkedIn, when you cold apply, they may not, unfortunately. And that means that either maybe you have to change your messaging, improve your messaging, maybe improve your profile to make it more trustworthy. Um, or you may have to reach out to more people if that's the only tactic that you're using, right? But I will say that there's a lot of people using that tactic, right? So, I think there's other tactics that can be very helpful and beneficial, right? Than just cold emailing and messaging people that you don't know. One of the best things that I teach people is this, right? We want to get to a point where people are coming to us. We don't want to have to cold email anybody, right? I think for this event, we had a couple people come out here, but we had like over 100 something students like sign up. And like, I don't think I might have messaged a few people, right? But like a few people who messaged me, but for the most part, I posted on LinkedIn and people just came. Right? So that's what we all want to get to. We want to get to a point where we built our profiles so strong, we leverage the LinkedIn algorithm that people are coming to us. That's what LinkedIn is supposed to do. LinkedIn is a tool for recruiters to be searching. It's hard for us to search on LinkedIn because, that's a skill set. That's literally a job, right? To be able to cold message people on LinkedIn and get them to respond constantly is a job. Literally. People are making good money doing it all day long. So it's normal not to be great at it. So yeah, that's my advice to you. Build your profile up, build your LinkedIn profile up. As far as like uh, adding more keywords, right? Having a really good headline, getting on some other job boards, right? Make yourself visible so that recruiters come to you. Okay. Pratikshka had a post asking if we could like it. Yeah, we could like the post. She just said thanks for sharing. Awesome. Do we have any more questions? Anybody want to know anything before we pop out of here? Hope this is helpful for you all, man. I'm happy to be here. I can like the post. I'm happy to like the post. Let's do it. Oh, we got a good bit of likes out here. Yeah. This is good. I like it. There we go. One more like for me. Nice. Finishing your master's. Congratulations. It's a good school, UC Irvine. Good, great school, great school. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna give it a few more minutes, and nobody has more questions. We could wrap it up. But I really appreciate you guys coming out. And again, for people who are serious, I would love to see some of you guys sign up for our program that we have coming up, where we're gonna be having industry engineers, right? We're gonna be having recruiters and people who really care train you and show you what you need to do to get that next job. Awesome. Cool. Well, we're 15 minutes over. Looks like nobody has any more questions. Feel free to. I'll stay on. Actually, I'll stay on for a few more minutes. I'll stay on for a few more minutes. I want to talk about I want to tell a story about someone a student who reached out to me and explained to me that, they don't know how to program and they're trying to figure out how to get into the industry. And due to lack of time, I didn't really couldn't give them a thorough response. But for people that sit in that boat, the number one thing I would say is start with Udemy, right? Start with these kind of like free courses and then the next step I would say is go find people who can actually help and clarify your understanding because learning to program by yourself is difficult. It's very difficult, right? So kind of like start with Udemy, build that discipline of being able to study and being able to work on your own, and then work with other people, right? Work with people who can help break concepts down and explain things, right? But you got to focus on the basics, right? You got to learn about hello world. You got to learn about loops, the forward and the while loops, right? Somebody at the beginning. Take your time. Okay, Malcolm has a question. Should recent graduates be focused on applying for internships or should they be prioritized entry full-time jobs? Okay, so Malcolm, so most companies will not actually take on uh graduates as interns, right? I've been in this boat before where I asked the company, "Hey, I'm gonna graduate on X date. Can I intern instead?" And they said no, right? So most companies are not gonna allow recent grads to intern. There's always gonna be some exceptions. Most companies do not allow this. And So yeah, you should be focused on full-time positions. And I see it says entry-level positions, full-time entry-level positions. What I say is you should be focused on full-time positions that you can do. Doesn't have to be entry-level positions, right? It could be a role maybe you have the skill set of somebody who's been in the industry for a while, right? It doesn't have to be specifically super entry-level job, right? Especially because these jobs are disappearing. Right. So the same thing I'm telling other people. I think, Malcolm, it could be a good idea to, if you're going to go full time, think about, yeah, I want to be a software engineer, but where do I want to be? Where do I want to focus? And what abilities and skill sets do I have that I'm actually interested in? Right. That's how you kind of lay the foundation for a career. Awesome. Cool. Any more questions before we get out of here, y'all? What time is it? 49. We close it at 50, I guess. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate everybody. We're gonna have more events, right? We'll have these things kind of at one point it was a bi-weekly level, right? So expect the next one in about 2 weeks from now. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, enjoy your weekend and all of that stuff. And yeah, later. Bye.